All right, welcome to Grounded in Motion, episode 3. Hi! We're here to kick each other's butts practically, so that's what's gonna happen today. So we're going to just tie in everything we've discussed, all the incredible information Maleah gave us about the breath work, and some of the fundamental exercises and movements along with corrections that you can do at home. And if you listen to the podcasts from before, you will be able to make a lot of sense of what we're doing today. So make sure you check the other podcasts out that will break down exactly what it is and why we're doing it, the science. But we'll explain a lot of that as we're teaching each other. So,
how are you today?
Good. Ready to do some lunges.
I can't wait.
So I will be teaching core correction, supine core work, and also plank. They will have modification, and then we will practice maybe some more advanced core exercises. So you can have options, and that way you can progress. You can start with the beginner or the modification, and then eventually work your way up to the more challenging poses. And then Maleah is teaching me. She sent me what she was teaching me. I was like, I'm not even going to Google this. I'm just going to show up and do it. Unilateral?
Unilateral hinges are my favorite. It's one of my favorite assessments.
Okay.
It shows so beautiful where there are kinks or breakdowns in the kinetic chain, and it gives a lot of information. And then it also is really good at showing where the movement disperses if the hips don't do the work. Is it the knee? Is it the spine? Is it the what's going on? So
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's my fave.
I have a pretty weak side. We're about to find out. Much needed. So been looking forward to this. I like getting trained. So all right. So let's start. We're going to start on the ground today. And we're going to get going with the supine core work. And then we're going to flip it over into plank work. So Maleah is going to come to lay down on her back. Very good. And then she's just going to take a moment to just practice some nice deep breathing. More of the breathing that she explained to us in the last podcast, which is that posterior rib cage expansion of breath. So it's more of an inhale and an exhale that draws your rib cage down. Now, this is important because you don't want to hyperextend in your core workouts. And ultimately, you don't want to go into what they call pelvic tilt. You're going to be crushing your low back. You want to anchor your rib cage down. You want to feel like it's tying like a little bow in the front and a little lowering. Now, she's going to reach her hands over the heart. I haven't started working on her inner thighs just yet, just letting her soak in the breath and just gentle repositioning of the rib cage. Reach your hands up towards the ceiling, and then you're going to try to reach your fingertips a little bit higher towards me. This is going to have you kind of shrug your shoulders a little bit more forward, but it's going to allow you to pull the rib cage down just a little bit more. So you can do that to almost auto or self-activate your upper abdomen and get those ribs down. Really, that rib cage flare is challenging for a lot of us. All right. Take about 2 more deep breaths. This is when the inhale and exhale is going to come into that mid back. You're getting many benefits. You're firing up your upper abdomen and you're expanding and just getting that to stretch and decompress as you're doing your core workout. You get 2 things. All right, and then take a little break, shake it off. Introducing the breath, make sure you're breathing throughout this series of exercise. Now, we have a yoga block. This is a weird shaped yoga block. It's the first time I see one like this.
They're my favorite. They're called...
What are these?
Eggs.
Eggs.
Is there 3 in it? 3 eggs? Can't remember, but eggs. Yoga. Just put in the egg yoga blocks. They're my favorite for yin because they're shaped like the body.
Oh.
So if I was to, real quick, use it instead of a block here, it's shaped and contoured, and it's much more comfortable for practices like yin and such. Okay.
Pretty cool prop. For the inner thigh, I think is going to help her grip her inner thigh a lot more, which inner thighs connect to your lower belly. So this is going to be good. You're going to place the block in between the thigh. You can also use a pillow. You can use a towel. You can use anything that's about this width. And then she's going to squeeze into the inner thighs. She's going to reach the hands up over the heart. You're going to take a couple of nice deep breaths. Sometimes we have to let the body settle and set, especially when it's on the ground in what is known as neutral spine position. So she's just anchoring her ribs down, practicing that breathing, reaching the hands a little higher, dropping that core, and now she's going to start to work her way into the inner thighs. I'm going to go grab the block, and she's going to squeeze and make sure that I can't take it away from her. So if you're doing this, you want to make sure you're tensing the upper inner thighs. Sometimes we start to shake, she's shaking immediately, you understand? But this helps to stabilize your adductors, which connect directly to your pelvis and directly connect to your deep transverse abdominal area. She's laughing because it hurts. One more deep breath. And break, shake it off. Good.
My favorite thing about this is because most people cannot connect to their deep core or their lower core. And we do so many exercises like leg, ooh, lift your leg and find your core, but people actually can't connect to it, or when we're talking about it. And instantly,
you can feel
right in my pelvis, I feel that transverse. I feel the pelvic muscles working. And that's why the adductors.
So important. Very, very important. All right, we're going to keep layering it up a little bit. She's going to go ahead, squeeze into the block once again. This time we're going to adjust a little bit more. So she's going to internally rotate her upper inner thigh. These are for those that can't activate their core, that have that little pouch, that have the rib cage flared out. She's going to inner spiral that left upper inner thigh. It's going to cause her to be a little bit more separated at the feet level, so the feet are a little bit more apart. She's going to squeeze into this. She's going to reach her hands up again. She's going to take a couple of nice deep breaths. Beautiful. 2 more. Last one, inhaling and exhaling. Now remember, we're correcting the core a little bit as we're strengthening it. And then she's going to reach her hands overhead, but she's going to keep this down as she's doing so. And she's going to squeeze the inner thighs. This is big because a lot of us hyperextend when we reach our arms overhead. And when you weight train, you want to really train this because hyperextension will throw your head and your shoulder form out of place. So this is good training. Shaking a little bit. It's really good. Reach a little bit more. Keep the core down a little bit more. Take about 2 more deep breaths. I'm pulling on the block so she doesn't release the tension. That's pretty much. And then break. Shake it off. Cool. So next we're going to activate the inner thighs with the legs a little bit more lengthened, and we're going to use the block. So stay with your block. The legs are a little bit straighter. You're going to place the block in between the inner thighs. Let's put a little bit of a long one. She's going to once again inner spiral her upper thighs. This length is going to have her firing up her core muscles a little bit deeper, okay? So this is pretty good. Flex your feet towards your nose. Point your toes a little bit more inward. Squeeze into the block. Reach the hands over the heart. Reach, 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 reach. Keep the rib cage down. And then she's going to just hold it here for about 3 deep breaths, okay? So the only difference is that the legs are a little bit longer this round, and there's more flexion in the feet. Reach the hands over the heart. Pull the rib cage down, which should be a little bit harder. Perfect. And then there's something that I like to do to test like my shoulder, range of motion, and also like, what the hell is going on? Put your arms in goalpost position and try to keep your ribs down as you do that. You see how her hands are not even touching the ground? Well, this is bringing out her true range of motion without her cheating. So she's gonna keep this here. She's gonna squeeze the inner thighs. She's probably feeling a nice little stretch there. Take about 2 more deep breaths. This will teach you to keep your core down. And break, shake it off, good. All right, so good. All right. Just so you can loosen up your sacrum a little bit more, Maleah can really benefit from this. All right, place the feet flat on the ground. All right, what you're gonna do is lift one leg, inner spiral it a lot, all right, lower down, and then lift the other leg, inner spiral it a lot, lower it down, and then squeeze. It's gonna give her a little bit more release there. Just a little extra, okay? Just if you're feeling very tight at that sacrum level, if your back is arching really high, you know, you can work on this. Anterior rib cage flare. I'm gonna say this so the algorithm can pick me up and you guys can learn about this. All right, arms are perfect in that goalpost. She's gonna work on her range of motion as she keeps her core down. Yeah, this is good. This is good. So whole core is firing. This is nice. Take about 2 more deep breaths. 1. And then the last one, inhale and exhale. Perfect. Break. Shake it off. Feels good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So
let's get a little bit of a sacral stretch just so we get in there. Place the feet flat on the ground. More. Bend the knee. Wrap this left leg over the right thigh. And then gently send it over to the left side. Oh. There you go. Get a little bit. Now, after you did some of that internal, you fired up your core, you did a little decompression in there, you can stretch that out. Come back to the middle, unravel the leg, put it up over the other side, and then go this way. Perfect. Nice little twist into the sacral joints. Nice little stretch.
Feel it right here.
Yeah, into the spine.
And I know so many people that I work with, right there.
And then gently release back to the center, unravel the legs. Okay, come flip it onto a plank position. Forearm plank position. The knees are gonna stay down on the ground. It'll be a modified plank. And then we are gonna switch it up a little bit by putting the block in between the inner thighs, okay? So that way she can engage her inner thighs as she's going into that plank, half plank, modified plank position. That's perfect. So she knows already as she's got to grip a little bit, and then she'll be able to fire up a little bit more of the deeper muscles. She pulled into it very quickly, but as you see, Maleah's head is in nice alignment. Her chin is tucked in. I'm going to have her tuck her chin in a little bit more. It's called an anterior chin lock. So look a little bit more down. And then that creates a connection of the deep neck flexors, the upper abdomens, the inner thighs, but the chin needs to close up. Chin, the upper abdomen, lower belly, the inner thigh squeeze. And this makes her plank much harder, much more effective. And then for those who are really trying to get that tummy to draw back, this is good work for them. You'll be able to get that. And then break. Good. Awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
Feels different with the block in between the thighs?
I love block between the thighs.
It's helpful. All right. Let's go through.
Do you know why? Because of the proprioception.
Yes. If not, you don't know you're going to squeeze in there. You have no idea what the hell's going on. You're like, inner thighs? What inner thighs? You know. So let's do another one. Block in between the inner thighs. I'm going to give you a couple little pointers for when you're doing it at home. You don't do no funky plank. Show me a bad plank. Show me like a one that you see a lot. Like the butt high one. Like even higher than that, like this. No, this is no, okay? No arch in the low back. No, it's not down dog or dolphin pose. You're gonna go ahead and shift forward. Over, exactly. And it's called a plank for a reason, because this is nice and straight, right? Not the butt high, you know, not a curve in the low back. So watch for that curve in that low back, hyperextending. The back of the head is gently pressing a little up towards the ceiling, and that anterior chin lock is very important. I'll put imagery up there so you can see what that is. Nice. And then break, shake it off. All right. Now, I'm going to have her do a full forearm plank with the block in between the thighs. Deep core activation.
Did you say full?
Yes. So a full forearm plank, block, and then lengthen. So exactly what she did. She went from the modified plank into the full plank. Head back, chin in, ribs up. I'm going to correct her. Shift your shoulders forward over your elbows. Drop the booty a little degree, and she's in. A lot of us will pull the shoulders back away from the elbows, but you kind of almost want to be a little bit over. It works. It helps. It helps you get your booty down a little bit more. You can shift even more forward. Yeah, don't worry about it. But stays low. This one's harder for her. Lower booty. Oh. There we go. Nice long quads. Quads are also involved in this because it's a whole frontal line engagement. Beautiful. Better. Break. Shake it off. Good. I kept her core up. I pressed her booty down just so you don't do that dolphin-like forearm plank. I'll show you what dolphin pose is there.
It definitely feels unfamiliar.
Yes. It's a little bit of a harder version. A plank done right, you're not going to be able to hold for that much longer unless you're really training yourself to build up that time, which will take a little bit of time, you know, doing time. So I recommend you do 30 seconds, build up on it, take a rest, about 15-second rest in between, do another 30 seconds. at least 3 rounds, which will give you 1.5 minutes of planking, but of solid form, okay? The plank is gonna help you get that anterior posture like pressed back. Posterior change strength to give you that extension, and then anterior to give you that complete lock. Wall in the front, wall in the back. Nice and strong. All right, so you got two forearm knee planks, modified planks. You have 2 little visuals of the full forearm plank. Let's do a regular hand plank, which I think is much easier than a forearm plank. Block in between the thighs. She's gonna go from tabletop, she's gonna come into a nice solid tabletop, and then she's just gonna press and lengthen into a plank. Perfect. And then here the same rules apply. A big cue tip that I give a lot of people is the chin tuck is so important. And finding that length in the base of the neck right here, which I wish I had someone do for me because I sometimes can't notice. All right, and then much easier in the regular hand plank. This is so beautiful. This looks so clean, looks so good. Take a couple of nice deep breaths here. The block stays in between the thighs to train those inner thighs, to train that deep abdominal, the TVA, transverse abdominals. Perfect. And break. Good. So that's how you get into that forearm plank. Check your form. In all the videos, you want to take a little pause, maybe have a mirror near you, check your form really quickly, and make sure you're doing it nice and right, because you're going to get the most out of your muscles. Like I say, you can be in the gym for 2 hours, but 2 hours gone to waste because you didn't really even activate muscles correctly. You know, you can be in the gym 45 minutes and really execute, do things right. Your form is on point, everything's firing, and life is good.
And it's less cortisol for women.
Less stress. If you know your form and you're able to get into really good positions, it's less longer workouts that you shouldn't even really be working out that long unless you're like an instructor that's like really grinding, and an athlete, like 2 hours, 3 hour training. Some people, I hear some crazy stuff, but regular person that needs to strengthen, you know, can do 45 minutes to an hour of exercises.
And I think feel free to send us a picture
Of your form.
Yeah. We can definitely give you some hints, tips.
Yeah, we can go over it. Go over it and review it, make some corrections. Because many people, these are the basics, like I said, but the form is not always on point. So let's do supine with the knees up, and then I'm just gonna wrap it up. So I'm gonna do with the block, and then I'm gonna do without the block, because I just want people to know how to do the bicycles correctly, and how to do opposite legs correctly, because a lot of people do it wrong. So
Of course.
let's comfortably down on the back. All right, and then place the block in between the inner thighs, okay? Now, by the time you get to this can be a routine. You can do 3, 3, 3 of everything. 3 hand planks, 3 of the form, 3 of the modified. You can do 3 versions of these and whatever else I'm gonna teach next. That's a full workout. This is demo, this is correction. So you're gonna lift the knees up. Good. And then what she can do is inner spiral her thighs a little bit, which at the end is the feet are like, you know, kind of hip width. Flexion of the feet, inner thighs. And she can go a little forward, and then squeeze the inner thighs to come back, and then squeeze the inner thighs to go forward. Just being aware that the inner thighs are gonna help you lengthen and retain the core tension, and when you bring it back in, also. It's like a missing piece. People will just go back and forth, and then it loses connection as they're doing it. So the inner thighs are squeezing, go out, and squeezing, come back in. So, very good for your core. Reach the hands up. This is going to help her press those ribs down. You can always do this if you feel your back is starting to arch. I love when people worry about their form. I'm like, yes, we gonna do this right. Worry about your form, it's important. She's doing repetitions, you can do little repetitions, all right? Squeezing as you go forward, squeezing as you go back. She's gonna do about 2 more. Beautiful, and then break. Awesome. Now she's gonna shake it off. You can do that. Strengthens your core. Also will bring you into awareness of what we're going to do next. So opposite legs, or alternate leg lifts. This is how you want to do them. You're going to bring the knees up, no block this time. But your brain already knows that you got to squeeze. So she felt her muscles already. She knows how tight she needs to squeeze. So she's going to do that. You see? I do. But without her doing the block in between and actually getting a couple rounds, she's kind of like, this doesn't exist. This muscle does not exist. So inner thigh connected to your core. One leg lengthens to your level of comfort. And when you bring it in, she's going to squeeze the inner thighs even more. She's going to alternate them with the inner thighs brushing towards each other the whole time. So the inner thighs must brush. They must exchange contact. You can hear it also. You can kind of squeeze as exactly. Do not let them fall to the sides. You're going to lose complete core engagement. The TVA is not going to. You want to build that nice underlayer of muscles that support your spine, that support your trunk, and this is it, like doing this engagement. Don't waste your core workout. They do take a lot of energy, so make sure you reserve your energy to doing movements that are actually worth it. Perfect. A little tighter. That right thigh squeezes towards that left thigh. Better. Contact exchange. Different.
Yes.
There we go. Perfect. She's like, enough. This covers it. Remember, you can do 3 rounds of this, 3 rounds of the one before, and you'll get a good workout in just with this little routine. I did the demos, I did the corrections, so you know the cues, you know what to do, what not to do, why you're doing it. And then this wraps up the core. We're gonna, just go ahead and let Maleah take it over from here. Reset my camera. We'll be right back. Short break. All right, she's doing stuff. She got a prop too. I didn't know about this. I just came with a block. She's coming with I don't know what this is. I don't even know what this is. What is it, a band?
It's a band.
Oh, okay. I'm safe.
You can use a towel, a t-shirt, anything you got. During COVID, what did we use? Oh, robe belts were really great. All right, you're gonna wrap this around your rib cage.
All right. You see, it's a lot about rib cage.
All about the rib cage.
I totally recommend the core and then doing this.
Yes.
At least you'll be a little bit fired up.
You'll have the awareness of what we're talking about, and it'll be fired up.
Exactly.
All right, hold this. All right. So she's got the proprioception, so she can feel the band in her back. Pull your shoulders. Yeah, okay. Back of the neck is nice and long. She's not looking down. She's looking out, but she's pressing her head back just a smidge. And then there's a little lift, like an angle. And she's setting the tone for that. Now, all she's gonna do, sides of the feet will be parallel to the edge of the mat so that our feet are straight. And what she's gonna do is she's just gonna take a nice hinge back. 4 or 5 inches, her knees are gonna bend slightly. And she's gonna focus her breath into this band. So she's thinking about pushing the band towards this wall. And that's it. 2 more breaths here. And this is setting the tone. The front of her ribs are locking in on the exhale. So all that core work we just did, it's pulling this in, but she's expanding so she sets. If she was gonna back lift, right, back squat, she's got this nice tone. Good, and then the hinge just comes back in. And you're just gonna do a few hinges in and out, forward and back. This is lengthening the muscles of her low back and tensioning the erectors. This is getting the transverse. This is that lateral. And she's lengthening as she hinges back all of these glute muscles and making her low back, hips do the work, which is where the work is meant to be. 1 more, we're gonna hold. 3 big breaths. Check the back of the neck. There it is. Her shoulders aren't falling forward. They're staying nice and placed on the rib cage where they belong. Yep, if I was to take the band, drop the band in that, and go into that goal post. Yes. So this, in this position, now gives us the ability to check in the placement of the ribs and that true relationship with the shoulders. Watching the back of the neck, what happens here is that oftentimes the head's gonna fall forward because the shoulders are trying to do what you're asking them, so the head will take up the work, or she would splay here and the ribs would come forward. Nice. Come on up, let that go. So that's a really great way to warm up and make sure that the core is firing up. We're gonna do some nice spinal mobility really quick. We talk about this thoracic spine a lot, but this is often what gets stuck. And if this thoracic spine is stuck, whether in a splayed position where the ribs are out, right? That's more my position. Or sometimes it's more in this kyphotic position where it's rounded. It changes the position of the shoulder blades in either position, the head and the pelvis. So if this rib cage isn't moving just because of our modern lives, we're sitting more than ever as a whole, that's what's going to happen. So a lot of the times if you have neck or shoulder funk, we need to get to the thoracic spine. So go ahead and stand hip width distance apart. She didn't know this was coming. I don't know if she's ever done this. She's going to give herself a big hug, wrapping elbow over elbow, and then you can just drop it down. Nope, hold on. Your elbows down. Yep. So she's not holding her elbows out. She's just letting them rest without moving her hips. I'm trying to think which is the best facing. This way's good. She's just going to work on her thoracic mobility. So she's going to think of drawing her elbows and rounding towards her belly button. The back of the neck, right from the back of the ears, is going to draw in like a little fern. You know how ferns like roll in? Good, and I really want her to round. Good, now she's going to take these elbows and she's going to rotate the elbows to her right hip point. Her hips don't move. We're keeping it all in the spine. Now she's going to take a side bend. You're going to feel that stretch all the way over this left side. Then she's going to come into extension, and she's going to think of lifting her elbows up towards the ceiling all the way around. You're going to make a circle. And we're going to go all the way over. She's not dumping and pushing her hips forward. She's lifting her rib cage up as she comes over. Now she's going to go into a side bend on the left. Yep, her elbows will begin to come down and in. And then she's going to continue that fluctuation into elbows to the hip point. And then she's going to round forward and come to that starting position in a rounded position. Good, we're gonna do one more. We're gonna do on the other side. So she's gonna take these elbows, she's gonna rotate to the left. Nice, now we're working and opening up this whole right side. She's gonna take that into a side bend. Then she's gonna come into extension as she rounds and lifts up. Yep. Good, all the way into a right side bend. Then her elbows are going to come in, and she's going to finish that circle and come all the way to the beginning. And then come on up, let it go, shake it out. I love that because you can do that at your desk. You can do that seated. You can do that.
Do that, it's good for you.
It's so good for you. Everyone who's like, I'm tight through here and in my low back, we want to do movement of the thoracic spine. She's getting openness, expansion, she's stretching all of those muscles, and you want to make sure that your hips don't move and that you keep that position in the upper body, because your hips are going to be, if you don't have the movement up here, your hips will be like, I'll do it for you. I will make this happen, and your hips will do the movement.
The movement, absolutely. I can see that happening.
What's so beautiful is that the body's always going to do what you ask it, but it just may create those compensations so that you feel like you're doing it. So record yourself. Don't let your hips move. Those hip points stay directly forward, and you're making these really big circles with your upper spine.
So good.
I know, right? It's my favorite. Okay, so let's talk about lunges. Well, I lied. Let's talk about unilateral hinges. So we're going to stand hip width distance apart. Thank you. That's about shoulder width for Nannette. Come in a little bit. And she's going to take a big step back with your left leg. Nice. It's going to bring her into a hinge. So check her out right now. This is more lungey, like a yoga high crescent lunge. I want her to go directly into a hinge already. So her hips push back, and not too much, like 10% of your hinge. This is beautiful because what this is going to tell me is where the body will begin to compensate, or where there's a break in the kinetic chain. So I love to have her place hand over hand right on the top of that rib cage. Yep. Her shoulders are pulling down and her elbows are pulling out like she was wearing a cape and it's behind her. This gives her the feedback that the ribs aren't splaying. And again, imagine that strap around the back of your rib cage, and the shoulders stay down and don't breathe for you. Now we want Nannette to hinge. We don't want the knees to do the work. We want the hips to do the work, and we don't want her low back to do the work. Again, we want the movement coming from her pelvis. So Nannette's going to push her hips back towards the wall behind me, towards me, as she hinges. There's a soft bend in this front knee. It's not going to move too much though. Nice, and I want her to hinge back even more. Nice. She's starting to rotate a little to the right. If I was to put laser beams on her rib cage, she'd be pointing a little to the right. So she takes a big breath, which is why your hands are on your rib cage, so that you have that, proprioception of where your body is in space. And then she's going to push through her feet, put her toes down, that's right. And then she's going to bring the hips forward into that beginning position. Nice. And then that's going to demonstrate what it looks like when your spine does the work and your hips don't move. So stay in this leg. Don't do that. But that is what happens. She was just being cute. That's exactly what's going to happen. This side, if your breakdown is on this side, you're going to lean because this side isn't engaged and connected. So it's going to compensate. So she's going to take a breath. We're going to use our hands as that positioning point so that her ribs and her hips all are in alignment. And this side is going to be working like a mofo, like so effing hard to hold and stabilize her up. So when we're talking about, like everyone talks about their QL, my QL is tight. It's tight because it's trying to stabilize you. And if it's on the weaker side, you're going to bend like she did in the beginning. Show me that bend again in that. It's going to be that breakdown. So we're lengthening. She takes a big breath. She lifts her ribs off her hips. She's holding that there, which is what we talked about so much in the first podcast. Oh. And she's going to feel it in her butt. So Booty by Maleah, if you've ever taken a class or work with me, you're going to, right where she's, all of this glute, where your hamstrings come into your glute, and you have these muscles that are coming into the side of the hip, we're lengthening them.
Yeah, this is for my fitness people because I can't express how much better these lunges are than the original lunges that you do at the gym, like the regular lunge. I feel like
even you still do it hinged. You don't even know how to do it straight up and down anymore.
Yeah, I don't. I'm programmed to do it in a different way. But this, if you're talking about glute activation in a lunge, all my girls that want to really sculpt and work their booties and not their quads, this is what you want to do. This is booty. This is hamstring. This is not quad dominant. Okay, so this will really build some nice sculpting and toning. And it's really good to also get rid of a lot of the cellulite up here too, because you're accessing more of the stubborn part that we bypass a lot. Even in squats, you're not getting that. You're not going to feel the booty activation in your squat. My girls tell me, I don't feel my glute in my regular lunges. I don't feel it in the squat. I was like, because it's not isolated. It's not because you're not isolating it. Yep. This is a lunge where you can isolate and really build on that right there. So
switch directions so you can work the other leg. And now I want to show what it's going to look like. What I see most common is the spine trying to do the work for the hips. So Nannette's got that gentle hinge. It's that beginning 10% of a hinge. You're just beginning to load the back of the leg and this low back. Now, if I said to hinge, then the hips don't have that connection. Her spine is going to do the work. And so it'll look like this. Nannette, hinge, but just with your spine. Good. So a little exaggerated, but that's going to make that...
well, that threw me off balance real bad.
Yeah. That's going to make the impression in your brain, that neural connection, like, oh, I'm doing the work, I'm hinging. But her hips haven't moved. It's her low back doing the work to perceive the hips doing the work. So the difference, and Nannette's going to do it correctly now, her hips are going to push back. Her spine would never change positions. She elevates the ribs off the hips, and now her butt pushes back. She's loading all of these muscles. And now she's getting into this QL. She's stabilizing the rib cage. She knew I was coming up here. The back of the neck, it's like someone is suspending your head off of your spine. You're pulling. Remember those Chinese torture devices you put your fingers in? I want you to think right at the back of the pelvis and her head.
Put that on there.
Take a big breath. Good. And she gets longer and taller. Hips push back a little bit deeper of a hinge. Nannette, come on, girl. Push those booty back. She wants to rotate. Her hips are rotating. So I'm going to pull this right hip back a little bit.
Nice.
And it's going to target even more into this leg. And we want to keep this back leg straight. Again, what will happen is the knee will compensate and it'll bend to make it feel like it's happening. But we want to keep this back leg straight and use the ankle as a lever. So if when she hinges forward and back, her ankle is moving. It's not a fixed point. It goes up, it goes down. It goes up, it goes down. Come on out of it.
This side is very unstable. This side is the funky side.
Yeah, you totally rotated it. You were like, the hinge, rotate.
I was like, no. Cue this from the back. What happened there? I need to see what I did.
No, that's just happy to have someone teach her.
There you go.
Is that the right? Yes. Okay.
What is wrong with this side?
Important to note here, I know it feels like a lot of information because it's a little different, built different than what we're used to. The sides of the feet are also straight, parallel to the walls, the mat, however you want to think about it, but they're not turning. What's going to happen is a lot of the times, this one's going to turn out. No, they're going to turn in.
Like this?
And it's going to be like this.
Yeah.
No Warrior One yoga crap here.
Hell no.
We have lots of comments and words about that. Anyways, her feet are straight. She's got this nice hinge. She's going to start in that just a 10% hinge. So she's not straight up. And she'll zoom in and you can see her hip, this right hip, is already beginning to rotate to the left. We want to pull that back just a little. And she's going to take a big breath and lift her ribs off the hips. And that powerful core that we were working, her core is pushing her breath out by squeezing those two hip points together. Now she's going to hinge back. Her ankle's going to lower just a little bit as she does that. She hinges, it stays in the hips. And now she's got length through here. She's lengthening her IT band. For all my IT band, my IT is so tight. This is getting into that. And she's working and strengthening her feet by keeping this big toe mound down. And you should hear her breathing if you can't through the mic. She's working so hard at holding this position. So now what I want you to do, you're going to do 8 hinges forward and back. Her butt's going to push back. Her hips are going to come forward. Hips go back.
Okay. I have to come out of it.
Come on out of it.
Okay, let's do the hinges. Hold on. Oh gosh. You mean I've been doing my lunges wrong? Probably. This is why I need a trainer. This is why y'all need a trainer too. Why the best of the best have trainers.
That's true. All right, so we're going to do 10 hinges.
Mama. All right.
It's like the only movie reference I know. Hips are good. And so she's squeezing her lats like there was an orange in between her armpits is a great position, or she can keep her hands on her ribs and pull her elbows out. Either one, just check what feels good.
Okay.
All right, 10 hinges. You go back, push through your front foot and come up. Again, it's the hip, it's not her low back. Hips, good, and up. Just find a nice smooth pace. Good, push, 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 and then come up, no more than that. I want you to stay in that loaded. If she comes up, it completely releases it. I want to burn it out a little bit for her. Nice. She's going to pull this right hip back just a little. Good, and then up. That's it.
Well, that's way off. I got no idea where my hip is. Now I know. I'm going to be doing leg day later. Definitely going to have this in mind.
Yep.
Probably going to do a video with this correction and add it to this.
So it's going to hit differently because her hip isn't trying to compensate for,
You see that butt muscle?
right into the glutes, y'all. All right.
Can we check my fitness lunge?
Well, that's what we're going to do next.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
So we're
Concerned now. Need a diagnosis for my lunges.
Other leg though. So do your right leg.
Okay, I'll take it. The left one is tired.
So we talked about regular lunges up and down. They're fine. But if we really want to get into this back leg, this glute, isolate and fire up your glutes, especially on a glute heavy day, this is perfect dynamic warm up. She's going to add that 10% hinge. Now, it's going to be like, where'd that strap go?
Yeah, definitely need
It's
that.
going to be like, I have this wrapped around and I'm pulling her knee down to the ground as she comes down, but she's not going to rotate like that.
I'm going to show it a little bit more this way so they can see this. Sorry. Okay, there.
Starting at 10% hinge. Keep your back leg straight just for a minute so you have it. We check the hips, we check the ribs. Please do something with your hands. Shoulders are down, back of the neck is long. She's going to think about dragging this knee to the ground, which is so good because this knee is going to come forward a little bit. Good. And then she's going to come up and she's going to think actually just about straightening this back leg. Yep. Go for 8. That's it. Toes stay on the ground. Big toe mound, especially of the front leg, stays anchored down. What's going to happen is it's going to fight to roll. Nail that big toe mound, the puppy dog pad. Nice. So you're going to probably be like, oh, that's a really short stance. Correct. That is a shorter stance. We're isolating and working a little bit more into that glute, hamstring, and her quad is also working.
I feel it. No weights, baby.
Yeah.
No weights.
And then she's going to come up, let it go.
Sweating, that's not fair. She's getting back at me, I told you.
No, I'm like, it's hot here.
Okay, other side.
Other side.
Okay, side profile so I can see.
So we start in that 10% of a hinge, so you're not straight up and down, a typical lunge. She's going to check to make sure this is her patterned side. So we want to make sure that the right side isn't rotating in, that it's pulling back, especially as she goes up and down. So on this one, I'm going to ask her to keep her hands on her hips so that she can hold them forward. Again, if you had laser beams on your hip points, they are straight forward. Obviously, she's in a hinge, so they're going to be more towards the ground as opposed to directly in front of her. But as she comes up and down, they're going to be straight, and that's what, for her in this moment, the focus is. She's going to drag that back knee down to the ground. Yes. And she's going to stay in that hinge position just a little bit more. There it is. Yes. This front knee comes forward, and I love that. It can go past your toes. It's all going to depend on your femur length as you do this. But totally, her knee can drive forward. Heel stays down. Big toe mound stay down. Toes are working. And she's going to make sure that she doesn't splay her ribs, and she keeps everything in that hinged position. Different? Yeah, okay, better. Good. We're going to unwind her a little bit, and up and down you go. Yep. Right there.
Do that again?
That shelf. Good.
Ew. My butt. There you go. That was a trick. This hip is not cooperating.
Mm-hmm. 2 more. 8 to 10. That's it, that's it. So for her patterning, because she has this rotation, she wants to just think. I always tell people, put your hand on your hip, don't let it push forward, push back.
Yeah, That's a good tip because I definitely lose track of that opposite hip. You can tell the difference from side to side.
100%. So that's the lunges and the unilateral. I think is so important for your movement patterns because this unilateral hinge is no different than my RDLs, right? And it's going to give you more balance and more strength through this posterior connection. And it's going to make sure that the ribs don't splay or aren't too rounded. I mean, it's going to go in either direction. Nannette and I have more combined. We have a more
open. A lot of the girls, a lot of people do it. Also, I see at the gym, it just happens.
Yeah.
Like, you know?
Exactly. And then I think it's really nice. I don't have like a bar here, but I do have this. This is so beautiful because if for our friends that want a back squat, go ahead and put this on your back. Squeeze your shoulder blades together so that the traps create a shelf for the bar to sit on. Key. This is where, when we squat, we tend to splay. So doing this work is going to keep this nice and locked. So when Nannette goes to do this back squat variation, she got that nice little hinge. She keeps those front ribs in. And this is her strength. She's not arching. Give me a little arch here. Right? It's going to stick her butt back, her chest, her low back. This is going to shorten those muscles instead of tensioning them and keeping them long. And then she's going to come up. Good. And remember, how far forward or how erect you are has to do with the length of the femurs as opposed to strength and stability. Also, obviously a key, but just remember that that position of the torso is dependent on the length of your femurs. We'll just do it one more time so you can see. She keeps these ribs in. We have this really nice hinge, and then she's going to go into that squat. And then she has this beautiful long spine. The back of her neck is long, and she has the control of the weight of the bar, and she would push to come up. Nice. Awesome. So I think that's all. We hope you enjoyed it. Please leave us comments, questions. Feel free to give us a picture or a short, hear me now, short video.
Quick
Don't
video.
be sending us your 30-minute workout. You can pay us for that.
That's different. We're analyzing, you know.
But definitely you can send a picture if you have a question and be like, is this in range, out of range? Do we need help? You know, we can definitely support you there. Other than that,
I think that's it. This was hard.
Thank you so much. It's my favorite.
God, we did like 5 moves and we're like dying.
Yeah, we're like sweating up in here.
My little
All right,
shaking.
Be well, my friends. We will see you on the next episode.
See you.